side of the chamber, and no dissenting voices, I am satisfied that cross-community support has been demonstrated. I received notice from the Minister of Education that he wishes to make a statement. I remind the Assembly of the Convention that members wishing to ask a question should be in the chamber to hear the Minister's statement in its entirety. For obvious reasons, this practice was eased when social distancing was in place in the chamber, but it now applies again. Before I call the Minister, I also remind members that they must be concise in asking their question. This is not an opportunity to debate, and long introductions will not be allowed. I'd also remind ministers to be concise in their answers, and I don't want to hear a lot of waffle. Thank you. Mr. Given.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And before I make the statement, can I associate myself with remarks by the member for North Antrim in respect of the principal of Dalriada School, Mr. Tom Skelton. From his sudden passing, I have heard many tributes for Mr. Skelton and the very high esteem by which he is held in the community. I was in Ballymoney on Saturday. I look after Dromore Ladies Hockey Club, and we were playing Ballymoney, and they asked for a minute's silence to be held, and I took part in that as a mark of his respect and tribute to him within that community. So I too extend my sympathy to the family on that sudden passing, and thank the member for raising that. Mr. Speaker, today I am setting out an ambitious vision for school facilities across Northern Ireland. I believe that there can be no greater investment in our future than investment in education. Children across Northern Ireland have the right to be educated in schools which are comfortable and safe, are of good quality, and are properly designed and resourced to support their learning. Over the next decade, we need to transform our school buildings so that they are truly fit for the future and can provide the best possible education experience for our young people. However, this will require a significant step change in the level of capital investment and in the pace and scale of delivery. The willingness of the Executive to fund such a programme will be an acid test of their commitment to invest in the future of our most valuable resource. The facts are incontrovertible. International research is clear that the learning environment impacts positively on teaching approaches, health and well-being, and student outcomes. We know that being taught in school buildings in poor condition has an adverse effect on attainment, motivation and enthusiasm, and most importantly, restricts the delivery of a modern school curriculum. Our teachers cannot foster the skills our young people need for the 21st century in crumbling buildings with poor facilities designed and built 60, 70 or 80 plus years ago. Our children need schools with specialist facilities to allow access to a modern curriculum that includes digital skills, technology, science and a wide range of practical subjects ranging from PE to drama to home economics and beyond. To support our young people to develop a love of sport and exercise and to combat societal issues like childhood obesity, we need not just sports halls but good quality pitches as well. For many children, school is their only opportunity to play outside safely. Promoting high-quality play for our youngest learners requires investment in outdoor equipment and facilities. The recent and rapid growth in the numbers of children with special education needs requires the largest increase in school capacity for 2 generations. The number of pupils with statements of special educational needs has increased from 19,000 in 2019 to just over 24,000 pupils currently. That's 5,000 additional children requiring placements. And to meet this demand, we need to more than double special educational needs places over the coming years. With the support of the Executive, I am committed to delivering on this ambition. Now, if we seize the opportunity, we have the opportunity to transform our school estate. Working together, we have that opportunity to demonstrate to people across Northern Ireland what can be achieved, but to do this, we must not just tell them, but through our spending, we must show them that we are investing in the future of our children. Our young people are our promise. We must show them that we are committed to delivering a modern, fit-for-purpose education system that truly meets the needs of our society and our pupils in the 21st century. We have inherited a difficult situation. In recent years, education capital budgets have stood still, while construction costs have spiralled by over 30%. High inflation in construction prices has significantly eroded the department's spending power, so that the current year's capital budget for education has been wholly insufficient to meet even the most inescapable needs. We have an ageing and dispersed estate of over 1,100 schools, with rapidly escalating maintenance needs due to historic underinvestment. The consequences of a 15-year backlog in planned maintenance across the school's estate are now being felt acutely. Many mid-20th century schools have reached the end of their shelf life and are quite simply no longer fit for purpose. Every day, departmental officials are receiving unprecedented emergency requests to replace boilers, heating, electrical and other vital materials such as canteen equipment to provide school dinners. These works are required to simply keep schools open. Last week, one of my first visits as Minister was to Glenwood Primary School on the Shankill Road. The school is doing fantastic work in challenging circumstances. However, crumbling wall ties in the ageing buildings have presented an imminent risk of collapse and required emergency works to ensure children and teachers are safe. This type of problem is repeated in countless schools across Northern Ireland. The large and unprecedented growth in the numbers of children with complex special educational needs has placed an unsustainable pressure on my department's capital budget and overtaken all previous planning assumptions. Yet not a single additional pound of capital funding has been provided to my department for additional special needs placements. Instead, this year the education sector faced an 8% reduction in its executive capital funding. Over half the education capital budget was spent on SEN placements and emergency and statutory works. This Assembly must be clear. Education cannot continue with current levels of capital funding. We are at risk even around the most basic requirements to keep schools open, children safe, and to provide places for our most vulnerable learners. Substantial additional investment is therefore urgently required, and I will be making the case for sustained capital investment in our education infrastructure. I am conscious of competing public expenditure pressures across government, but what is more important than the future of our children? And I want to maximise the bang for the buck of every pound spent. I want to signal a new approach to investment in our schools. I want to end the game of winners and losers, a situation where there are great facilities and opportunities for some, but where the majority make do and mend. Let me be clear, this approach is not acceptable to me, and it's going to change. My officials have submitted funding bids of £528 million to the Department of Finance to meet education capital needs next year. As an absolute minimum, I will require an additional £100 million of capital above the draft budget allocation to meet pressures in regard to special educational needs placements. This will provide essential schools for our most vulnerable children. Without it, we will not just stand still, but we may fall backwards. This will be an important first step. However, additional investment will need to be sustained and indeed increased over the next decade to build 2 new special schools, expanding the existing special school sector and provide many hundreds of specialist units in mainstream schools. Good planning and sound investment decisions require certainty and stability around future funding levels. Across my department's capital programmes, in every constituency and in every school sector, there are a wide range of much-needed investment projects which urgently need to be delivered. There is not a moment to lose. That is why, to begin this process, I have instructed my officials to lift the pause that had been imposed in the absence of a minister on a number of new build projects for schools in the worst conditions, which were announced by my predecessor. This will ensure a pipeline of investment for future years. I will shortly be bringing to the Executive proposals for investment in the Ministerial Shared Education Campus in Omagh. This visionary and unique campus will bring together 6 schools and over 4,000 children on a cross-community basis on a shared site. It will be a regional and international exemplar of shared education. My officials are presently finalising work on the full business case, and a potential contractor is in place. However, without ring-fenced additional investment, this innovative project, which will transform education provision for all the children of Omagh, may not be able to proceed. We should recall that the UK Government's £3.3 billion of funding package for the Executive includes £150 million of the Fresh Start capital funding that was previously ring-fenced for shared and integrated capital projects. I'm clear that if it is serious about delivering this project, the Executive needs to recommit this funding to the education sector as a matter of the utmost urgency. As I meet principals and visit schools over the coming weeks, I will be talking to them about the types of capital investment that will make a real difference to children's learning. It is not necessarily all about large-scale new buildings. Instead, I want to bring forward a greater range of parallel streams of investment to improve classrooms, outdoor spaces, sports facilities, and above all, curriculum-led projects to support teaching and learning so that every child feels the benefits of the investment we are making. High-impact and relatively low-cost projects to create effective outdoor learning environments or bespoke well-being spaces can make a lasting improvement to everyday life in a school. I have therefore commissioned my officials to develop, as a matter of priority, a capital investment strategy for education which sets out a compelling vision for a responsive, agile and innovative programme of capital investment clearly aligned to wider education and executive policy. Capital investment of varying scope and scale will be a key driver of innovation across the education system. Capital investment to reshape education provision, to support improving the quality of learning outcomes, tackle disadvantage and promote health and well-being. We must remember that schools offer opportunities for new and better facilities which can be used by all local people. This has the most profound benefits in our disadvantaged communities. Investment in the school's estate can embed a wider place-based approach to improve local outcomes. I hope to work collaboratively across government to utilise schools to coordinate and integrate local services to support communities. I want our schools to be a central focus of their community and the community to be part of the school. This approach will tackle the cycle of multi-generational disadvantage. This new and ambitious investment strategy for education will make a key contribution to a wider executive programme of well-targeted capital investment to boost employment, support economic recovery and generate regional growth. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, our education system has reached a critical juncture. This is a moment of decision and a moment of truth. On one path, there is a real danger of our children being left behind in facilities from a previous century with children in damp, mouldy classrooms, our most vulnerable learners without the equipment to meet their most basic needs, with demoralised teachers in decrepit, unfit buildings. On the other hand, I offer the vision of an education system where every child benefits from improved facilities and is educated in a high-quality learning environment by motivated teachers with the facilities and resources to deliver a modern curriculum. If we are to meet the expectations of our children, We must invest in our school buildings as a key part of the Executive's long-term economic plan. This is not a goal or ambition that I can deliver on my own. That is why today I'm asking you to support me both here and at the Executive table in prioritising investment in the future of our society in order to build an education estate that is worthy of our children, our excellent teachers and our ambitions for a prosperous and dynamic Northern Ireland. I commend the statement to the House. Thank you.
I call Mr Daniel McCrossan.
Mr Speaker, can I take this opportunity to congratulate the Minister on his new post and wish him well with the increased challenges in that department. I also want to thank him for his recommitment to Stroul, which will come as a relief to the people of Omagh. I'm sure the Minister is aware that his department has the worst track record when it comes to special educational needs and in delivering projects within a reasonable timeframe, which contributes, as I'm sure he'll agree, significantly to the escalation of costs and poor value for public money. Can the Minister tell the Assembly how long it will take to present this strategy report before the House, and how do you plan to get the additional resources that you propose to reduce the time it takes to get capital build programmes delivered? Thank you.
Can I thank the member for his kind remarks in my position as Education Minister, and if I can reassure the member that everything that I am doing in the department is to act with the urgency that it requires, and that's why I've commissioned this capital investment strategy now to take place. I outlined in the statement what areas that needs to address, and again, officials are clearly understanding the urgency with which I want to take this forward. But he is right to highlight the failure to deliver projects, the budget that is required, the underfunding that has went into the education system. That's why I've put forward a very ambitious capital bid to the Department of Finance, and that'll be for the wider Executive then to consider in agreeing its future budget. So I'm pleased that the member agrees with me on that. I look forward to continue to support from him as we make the case for investing in our education system.
I call Mr Nick Matheson.
And thank the Minister for his statement, and I want to welcome the fact that the Minister has come to the Chamber so quickly and so early with these plans, and I look forward to working with him to ensure that we do deliver on the huge capital challenges and the challenges across the board in education. I welcome the particular reference to SEN and the need for investment in our SEN transformation programme and in SEN places. So on that basis, can the Minister provide more detail as to how he will ensure that any additional capital allocation received for SEN is delivered to ensure that the required places, both in mainstream and special settings, are in place for September 2024 for our SEN children?
Well, can I thank the member for the question? Can I also wish him well in his role as Chairman of the Education Committee? I look forward to working with him in that capacity. I know it'll be constructive, but I'm sure it'll also be challenging, and I wouldn't expect anything less from the Chairman of the Committee. He rightly highlights the issue in respect of special educational needs, and that is where, in this current financial year, the Department's focus has been in addressing the urgency around supporting the placements both within mainstream but also in those special schools, of which we have 39 special schools in Northern Ireland, in order to accommodate people that need to be accommodated there. So there is a focus on that. Into the next financial year, I highlighted in the statement that the absolute minimum that I need in respect of special educational need capital spend will be in the region of 100 million. Now, that, in addition to all of that, I need to be able to take forward major capital projects, deal with the school enhancement programme, ICT, and the list goes on. But special educational needs is a priority for the Department. It is getting priority by me as Minister to take that forward as a matter of urgency so that we can meet the needs which has already been flagged to me as we approach the 1st of September. It is critical that we can provide the support for every child to get the placement that they need.
The Minister to his role, and I look forward to working very closely with him. I was disappointed, however, in the Minister's statement that he didn't mention Irish medium education. There are 3 Gaelscoil now within my constituency who are being taught in porter cabins each day. I know this is for 60% of Irish medium education across the north. So I would ask the Minister, firstly, would he come to my constituency and visit some of those Gaelscoil as his predecessor has, but also what will he do to ensure that Irish medium education is prioritised.
Well, can I thank the member for his question? I suppose I would just push back slightly on the member. I didn't mention the controlled sector, the Catholic maintained sector either. I've highlighted the special educational needs. My statement refers to the entirety of our education system, and everybody within that, as I've already said on the record, will be treated fairly and equitably, irrespective of whatever sector that they come from within the education system. So, of course, if the member wishes to invite me to visit schools within his constituency, I have been inundated with such requests, and I would be more than happy as I put together a schools visit programme to facilitate the member in his area.
Johnny Buckley.
Can I thank the Minister for a frank and honest assessment in his statement today. Our educational estate is quite literally creaking at its seams, with many of those schools falling into dire need in my own constituency. I want to highlight in particular Portadown College. Broken single glass windows, cracked walls, poor disability access, surely not acceptable in today's society. So can I ask the Minister, would he work with me and indeed the senior leadership team at Portadown College and governors to ensure that they can continue on their journey to much needed, much deserved, modern 21st century facilities?
I'll just take my place, Mr. Speaker, if that's okay. Thank you. Can I thank the member for that question, and also commend him for the way in which he has championed the education sector within his constituency of Upper Bann. I know in first day being in post, he was engaging with me in respect of Portadown College and highlighting the need for investment within that. And I appreciate other members undoubtedly will have a particular interest in their areas and raise that. But in the context of the statement, the member is right to identify this issue. And I have already outlined that I intend to bring proposals to the Executive to seek significant additional capital for the next financial year and future years. And that's why in this context it's important that we ensure a flow of projects into the early stages of planning and design. So I have asked my officials to take steps to commence the procurement of integrated consultant teams for 7 of the highest ranked new builds projects that had been announced by my predecessor, Michelle McIlveen. These projects had been paused due to the extremely difficult budget, but they will now progress in that planning stage. The 7 projects are as follows: Carrickfergus Academy, Loretta College, Coleraine, Dromore High School, Edmund Rice College, Newton Abbey, Portadown College, Mercy College, Belfast, and Malone Integrated College, Belfast.
Call Linda Dillon.
Thank you, and I welcome the statement today from the Minister. Thank you, and I particularly welcome the fact that you are going to lift that pause, as there are a number of schools in my own area that have been paused that are already in contract. But in relation to the special education needs, and I don't need to say it, you've already outlined the challenges that we have, and I would just ask the Minister to maybe consider coming to Spermview Special School. It is an excellent school that provides excellent services for the children that are able to get into it, but at this moment in time the school cannot accommodate the children who want to go there. So I would appreciate if we can get an update from you on what your plans are around Spermview. Gormagat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again thank the member for the question. The member is someone who I've worked with before constructively in different capacities, and I look forward doing so again. The member highlights the issue in respect of Spermview, and obviously I've addressed the wider context in terms of the need to invest in our special schools, but also within our mainstream schools as well, and making sure we've placements there. So more than happy to engage with the member in respect to her particular constituency.
Stephen Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Minister for his statement and congratulate him on his ministerial appointment. Within my own constituency alone in North Down, there are quite a number of schools, including Crawfordsburn Primary, Prairie Integrated College, Hollywood Primary and Bangor Central Integrated Primary, who have all had plans in place for many years for new builds and in real need of investment. Can the Minister ensure the House that he will make every effort to ensure these schools will not be forgotten?
Again, can I thank the member for the question, and also for very quickly inviting me to Crawfordsburn Primary School, which is a visit which the planning is now underway to take place. He highlights a number of other schools, and in respect of that, this is why I am making the case for capital investment because members will all have a wide range of schools. And just to highlight that from 2012 we have had 102 schools identified for major capital projects, of which only 35 are now completed. So we have over 70 schools announced for major capital projects, and we're still waiting for construction to commence. And they're at various different stages within the planning process before they can get to the point of construction taking place. That is why, in respect of the capital bid that I'm making, it's ambitious. This is a capital project that will extend way beyond the next 10 years in terms of its delivery, but it's important that we have the pipeline of potential schools ready so that should capital become available, construction can commence. That's why the 7 schools that I've identified, I am unpausing the process to allow them to continue to get to that point where they are shovel ready, subject to the appropriate finance being available.
Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for his statement, and I'd like to congratulate him on his appointment and also welcome that his first visit was to Rathmore in my constituency and the mention of Malern Integrated. Will the Minister provide an update on the proposed scale of capital investment which is required in our nursery estate to deliver the standardisation of preschool education programme? Thank you.
Again, Mr. Speaker, can I thank the member for her best wishes and look forward to working with her, I believe, on the Education Committee, if I'm right, in terms of your appointment to that, so thank you. Obviously, the investment in our capital estate includes your post-primary, your primary, then your nursery provision as well, and I highlighted that we have 1,100 schools across the totality of the estate in Northern Ireland. And they all need some more investment than others, but that's why within the capital investment strategy that I've commissioned, it is to look at the needs right across our estate. So that will be obviously important as we look to the childcare strategy that we'll get to later today in terms of the Assembly's business, that we need to have that capacity in place, because if everybody moves towards having that 22.5 hours and we level up in that respect, we need to ensure that the capacity exists to deliver upon that. So the member joins the dots in respect of how important it is to have the appropriate capital invested in our estate in order then to deliver other objectives that we as an executive, including childcare strategy, will require.
Danny Baker.
I'd like to wish the Minister all the best in his new role and welcome the Minister's recognition of the importance of the education of children and young people with special educational needs. In meeting these needs, has an analysis been carried out as to where any new special schools are likely to be needed?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, to the member for, again, his best wishes. I've mentioned in the statement the need to take forward 2 new special schools, but obviously when it comes to providing additional capacity within the 39 schools that are there, that is an ongoing piece of work as to what is necessary, and also then for those that require what's called special provision in mainstream establishments, it's critically important that schools get the support that they need in order to provide children with special needs access into mainstream education. So that is all part of the work that I'll be taking forward within the department.
Maurice Bradley.
I would like to congratulate the Minister on his appointment, and I look forward to working with him over the course of the mandate. I also thank the Minister for his statement, especially the removal of Loretto College from the pause list. That's welcome news from my constituency. However, I'd like to ask the Minister about the future school merger in Coleraine between North Coast Integrated Coleraine College and Dunluce. The last correspondence I had received from the Minister quite some time ago stated that the new school will be on site by September 2026.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the member again for his question, and on that specific one, if I can undertake to write to the member in order to provide the necessary details to give him a fulsome answer.
Robbie Butler.
Speaker, I want to, at the very outset, congratulate my neighbour and Lagan Valley colleague on attaining the role of Minister for Education as sincerely one of the most important ministries you could hold. And I want to also thank him for his commitment, his verbal commitment today to special education and particularly special schools, and ask him if he would particularly put it in his diary in terms of Fleming, Fulton and Harberton. And then just want to turn to the statement, if that's okay, Mr Speaker. Sustainable investment in educational infrastructure. The most important infrastructure that we have in our schools is our pupils, followed by our teachers and support staff. Would the Minister take the opportunity to update us on the pay negotiations for classroom assistants and drivers, given that if we don't have support for our children within the schools, then it won't matter how much we put into the quality of the building? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and again thank the member and my friend for his best wishes in the role, and I'll certainly want to avail of his expertise in respect of special needs in particular, and I look forward to working with him. The member rightly raises the issue about ensuring that we have the right infrastructure in place to allow our teaching profession and non-support staff the right environment to be able to deliver their work, and that was something that came very close to home when I visited Glenwood Primary School on the Shankle Road last week, where I was appalled by the conditions that the teaching profession and classroom assistants are having to deliver education. It is beyond third world is what they're having to operate in, and yet they are delivering excellent education, but they need to have much more support, particularly in communities that come from such disadvantage. There has to be a real focus in supporting them and doing that. The member asks me in respect of the pay and conditions issue, which I've spoken about already, Mr Speaker, publicly, about the need to resolve that, but I can confirm to the member that I will be meeting the trade union representatives tomorrow morning in Lisburn.
Philip McGuigan.
Mr Speaker, and can I also congratulate and wish the Minister good luck throughout his term of appointment. I welcome his commitment to excellent facilities for children. In his answers, he mentioned the large number of schools and infrastructure in the pipeline. One of those is our Mary Queen of Peace in Gunravel. A couple of generations of primary school children have already passed without their new build. Can I ask the Minister today if he can give a commitment to parents and children in Gunravel that they will see development soon with Mary Queen of Peace in Gunravel, and also invite him down to the area to meet with Board of Governors and pupils?
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank again the member for his kind remarks, and more than happy to engage with him in terms of his own constituency. I will write to the member in respect of the particular school that he has highlighted, but there are schools that are on that list to be delivered. I referenced Glenwood, for example, on the Shankle as being one, subject to finance being made available, and they are at a point whereby we could be commencing construction on site within the next financial year. Obviously, the 7 schools that I have identified are at a much earlier stage of the process. It allows them to move into this stream of work. That is a number of years down the road, and again subject to finance before they will be at the point of being able to move on site. So there will be other schools that, should the Executive provide me with the finance that is needed, that can be commenced within the next financial year. Obviously, I don't know the details in respect to the particular school that he has mentioned, but I will provide a written update to the member.
George Eastwood.
Constituency colleague and friend, hopefully still friends, Paul Giffen, on his elevation to Education Minister. I would really also desperately want to know and ask him, does the former abandoned Drumore Central Primary School site form part of his vision, given that that has been long earmarked for use for special educational needs? Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and again thank you to the member for her best wishes. And of course, I'm sure we'll continue to be friends as she holds my feet to the fire, but we will continue to have not just a professional relationship, but continue that friendship, and I wish her well in her role. She rightly raises the issue in respect of Drumore Central Primary, a derelict site. I have asked for an update in respect of all of the derelict facilities that exist across the education estate, because I think Drumore is one example, but there are others, not just in Lagan Valley, but in every member's constituency, where you could point to facilities derelict, no longer in use, and what purpose are they serving? And that may no longer be within the education sphere, but for Dromore Central Primary School, she's highlighted that EA's view is in respect of special needs provision, and that's something that I will want to look at whenever it comes to how do we meet in the future the needs around special educational needs, if there is a role that we can advance in respect of Dromore.
Mr. Speaker, I want to congratulate Paul Given on his appointment as Education Minister. I know he will be very hard-working and enthusiastic in the role, and I particularly welcome his mentioning of his visit to Glenwood Primary School last week in the Shankill Road. Party colleagues and I have been lobbying for many years to bring forward the major capital investment which is needed there, and I wish to ask the Minister, if funding for such major works is made available, what will be the criteria used to prioritise those major capital investments?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again thank the member for his best wishes and his question. Obviously, when it comes to taking forward projects and entering into that construction phase, all of this is on the basis of need. That is ultimately the criteria that we will be using to advance projects. But Glenwood was announced back, I think it was in 2012, by maybe someone opposite who may have been Minister at the time. And having walked around the school, single pane windows, condensation on every window, mouldy walls, crumbling plaster, indeed plaster that had been put over plaster falling down, and evidence of all of that, water leaking through the roof into 2 buckets in a corridor, wholly inadequate, grossly unfair for the children of that community and the teaching profession to have to operate within that environment. And the need was recognised that a new build was required over 10 years ago, and yet still we have not been able to enter into the construction phase. So subject to finance being made available, that is a scheme that we are at the point by which in the next financial year it could be taken forward. The challenge for me, and this is why I'm making this statement today, is to outline the very significant capital requirements that the Department of Education needs. I can only take forward schemes like the one in Glenwood and other schools that members have raised if I receive the suitable resources to do that. I am up for doing that. I say to my colleagues here in the Chamber and in the Executive, give me the problem of being able to deal with hundreds of millions of pounds in addition to what we have been able to handle before, and I will deal with that challenge. But do not give me an allocation which fails to recognise the need that exists within the education estate. That will be a dereliction of our responsibility to the next generation. They're the future, and I'm committed to delivering for them.
Speaker, and I too would like to congratulate the Minister on his new position and thank him for his statement today, specifically the emphasis on special educational needs and the update on Loretto College Coleraine. Minister, in your statement, you did touch on that our young people are our promise and that we must meet their most basic needs, and I too agree with this. So I am mindful that 1 in 10 children here in Northern Ireland experience food poverty. So my question is, has your department considered the huge impact that hunger can have on learning, and what will it do to ensure that every child has an equal right and support to achieve academic success? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again thank the member for her best wishes and for her question. This is an issue that I've already been discussing within my department in terms of how do we support people who need that additional support. And so I've been asking a number of questions around how we can do that, what is the best way to do that to make sure that it's effective, and there'll be a report being provided to me in respect of that particular issue as to how we can take that issue forward, as well recognising the financial constraints that exist within the Executive, how we can do that. But the member is right to raise it. It's an issue that I'm already considering, and I've been commissioning reports to be provided to me in respect of that matter.
Good luck just in the next couple of years. I suppose it's just following on from some of the other points and what was in your statement in terms of the increase in those being assessed for special educational needs from 19,000 up to 24. And we know that that trajectory is likely to climb over the foreseeable future. So in terms of the analysis that's being done around special educational needs and the provision that's needed, I would be keen to get more analysis in terms of what that looks like, but also keen to understand how you're going to work across departments, but also with local councils and others, for example, in terms of local development plans that are being delivered. So what the school estate is going to look like in the next 10 and 20 years, and an investment programme then that would run alongside that. I think just on the issue as well, in terms of within the Irish medium sector as well, I know, and I would like to ask you in terms of an update on Scollindreyhead in South Belfast, because we know that there's a disproportionate impact at the moment in terms of special educational needs within Irish medium education. And I know that that proposed new build for Scollindreyhead on the Armour Road will provide additional SEN units. So again, I'm just keen to get an update on that. And I think your approach around poverty and deprivation, I'm also keen there's work done between Shankill and the market community in Belfast with Queen's University. So I would call on you to visit those projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again thank the member for her comments, and she raises a number of issues. Let me take the last one first. Let me give her a detailed response on that by way of a written reply, and I will undertake to do that. Obviously, being better sighted by working with other departments to identify particularly children that emerge with special educational needs is important, and that's why this and last year there seemed to be a lack of awareness of what was going to be required, and I've already been asking the questions, how did that arrive? Because surely there would have been a way in which we were identifying children that would need that support, both within the education system, but people who are health workers will also have been aware of children that may require that support, and therefore what happened last year, I'm asking the questions, why was that the case? So rather than us being reactionary around these issues, it's about being proactive, identifying at an early stage the need that exists, and then we need to plan as to how we're going to meet that. At the moment, the need that is there, we have been unable to meet that need, so we need to get to the point where we can meet the need, but also then get on the front foot so that we're much more prepared, and that's why part of the capital bid around special education is to make sure that we can create the capacity that is necessary to do that. And in respect of what opportunities there are, particularly, for example, with local government, the member's right. We can all point to maybe schemes where in our own constituencies there is a partnership arrangement between the Education Authority and local government through shared facilities. I have them in my constituency, and I'm sure others would be able to highlight them. So as part of the planning process, area planning, there is an opportunity which I certainly want the Department of Education to be engaged in, to say, is this a shared facility that can be used not just by education but by other departments, and obviously making sure that a framework exists to do that. And it may be that in developing schemes around that we can also find a way to incentivise that kind of partnership, because it makes better sense to utilise the collective resources that are available for the wider community.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for his statement and proactive vision. I welcome and I'm delighted that we will now see progress in relation to the much-needed Carrickfergus Academy new build, which was locked out for quite some time. Can I ask the Minister to detail when he believes this major capital build will progress and a projected outline for delivery? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the member for, again, her remarks, and also rightly championing her constituency in East Antrim and the need for the school to progress. So I will be writing to each of those schools later this afternoon in respect of the next phase of this project. But this is to allow what's called the ICT to be put in place, that integrated consultancy team, which then can take forward all of the various different processes that are necessary to get a school to the stage by which, subject to finance, we can enter into contracts and construction can commence. That will take a number of years before we can get to that stage, but it is important for me that they are available, they come online, so that the case that I am making for the necessary capital budget is, if it is delivered, then we are able to be shovel-ready in respect of these projects. That's the basis on which I'm going to be proceeding for those particular schools.
Anna Egan, please.
Speaker,
I thank the Minister for his statement to the House today, and I'd also like to congratulate him on taking up the role as Minister for Education. Teachers in my constituency of North Down and across Northern Ireland do an absolutely fantastic job in educating our children and young people and shaping their futures. As referenced in the statement, all too often, however, this is in buildings which are unfit for use. They are inadequate, they are damp, they are crumbling and even unsafe. Can I please ask the Minister for the number of schools which are in need of emergency maintenance, and if his plans laid out in the statement will address the backlog?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again thank the member for her question. This is exactly why I am making the case for an increased capital budget, because the department has been focused almost entirely on urgent repairs and special educational need provision that needs to exist, and therefore the backlog in routine maintenance has been continuing to increase and increase and increase. So many schools are in a bad state of repair, and we are now at the point where it is only emergency repairs that can be carried out for health and safety reasons. So hence the need to support the capital bid that I have made to the Department of Finance. I welcome the member's support for that, because she highlights the issues in respect of maintenance that needs to be addressed. I can only do that whenever I get the support from the wider executive to give me a budget that allows me to do it.
I want to congratulate the Minister on his appointment as well. Minister, your predecessor, Minister McElveen, announced a £14 million investment last March 2022 in the Dean McGurk College in Carrickmore. It's one of the 28 schools that are now paused, and unfortunately it's not on the 7 that you listed today. What are the next steps for those schools? Any indicative timeline in terms of moving forward with the investment?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for raising this issue. So at present, the first tranche of 7 projects will be sufficient to begin the flow of projects into early planning. Should I obtain additional funding for next year, I will review the position of the other projects that were announced in 2022. I am aware that Dean McGurk College in Carrickmore had scored well in respect of the prioritised list of those schools that were announced in 2022. However, due to ongoing discussions in regard to the agreement of a future approved enrolment for the school, it had been agreed with the Council for Catholic Maintained Schools that the project would not progress in procurement until these matters have been resolved.
Thank the Minister for his statement and wish him well in his new role. The Minister commit to intensifying efforts on the normalisation process for Market Hill High School, given its consistently high enrolments and the absolute importance of a new bill to address the obvious issues associated with the school not fit for purpose. The school was built in 1959 for 300 pupils and currently has 500 pupils.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. The member raises an issue that does need to be addressed in terms of that normalisation process, where schools have got an official enrolment figure, but often many of them are operating at a much higher level. Some may be operating at a lower level, but typically when it comes to these capital development schemes, it's based upon the official enrolment level. So there has been a piece of work to normalise the figures across our various schools. That is something that my officials are finalising with recommendations which will come to me in order that I can complete. And the member raises the issue in respect of Market Hill High School. I know that is a particular interest of the Deputy First Minister as a former pupil of the school, and I know that she will be supporting me, as I've no doubt colleagues around the executive table will, to get the necessary capital resources into the department, which will allow me then to make progress on a lot of the school estate. And whenever I know what capital I can deal with, of course, I am able then to consider the needs that exists in other schools across the estate.
John Elliott. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome the Minister here, and I did hear a number of people talk about him as friend. I'm just thinking my question might challenge that a wee bit, in that there are a number of schools earmarked for closure currently. I'm just wondering if the Minister is going to have a review of those schools at present now that he's come into office. Thank you,
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the member, indeed members in the House, will be aware of the process that you have to go through in terms of considering development proposals, including school closures, and that's clearly defined as to the approach that needs to be taken. And departmental officials will bring forward to me in due course at the appropriate time any such proposals.
I call Colm Gildernew.
Can call you. Minister, you mentioned the Capital Works programme. Can I draw your attention to St McCartans in Clare, in my constituency, who have a fully passed case for a new hall? Currently, the students cannot all sit down together for a meal, no activities. Support staff are working in unsafe conditions.
I think we've got the question, Mr. Gildernew.
And teachers are eating off their laps. Can you work with me, Minister, to ensure that bill has got over the line?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Happy to work with the member who raises that issue. It's why I touched upon it in my statement, that we need to have a curriculum-led capital development project. So where schools don't have a sports hall, or where they need provision to deliver aspects of the curriculum, we need to find a way to make provision for that. Hence the capital bid that I've made to the Department of Finance to enable me to do that.
Anne Mulholland. Trevor Clark.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I join others today on the newfound friends list of the Minister and wish him well in his new role? Can I ask the Minister, much focus has been on new builds, and lots of members' questions around new builds. I was in my constituency on Friday in Greystone Primary, 1970s school with the windows falling out. So how is the Minister going to prioritise some of those very dilapidated buildings and bring those up to standard?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the member for the question. That's why in the statement I indicated that there are those that get the brand new facilities and they can deliver their educational curriculum in world-class facilities, but there are others who have to make do and mend. I don't believe that's acceptable. It needs to change, and that is why I'm making the statement today. It's why I'm putting forward a capital bid of $528 million to the Department of Finance. That is hundreds of millions of pounds more than what the Department of Education has ever received, but it is absolutely necessary if we're to deliver the vision that we have for the next generation.
Mark Durkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I congratulate the Minister on his appointment. Now, we're talking here about a lot of projects of different scales, all huge, all important. The Minister rightly alluded to not just the education of our children, but their health as well. Can or will the Minister prioritise projects that ensure our schools are warm, dry and safe for our young people?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that is where the Department has now had to put its resource into that most basic of need that the member for Foyle has raised with me. We need to move beyond the point of the putting on the sticking plaster over the sticking plaster when it comes to our capital spend. And I trust members will continue now to support me with the Department of Finance in order to secure the necessary resources that are required.
Ciara Ferguson.
And once again, can I congratulate yourself on your new position. I very much welcome, obviously, the pause has been lifted. I am disappointed, however, that 7 schools have been put forward with regards to an integrated consultancy team. 2 schools in my constituency, Lumen Christie and St Bridget's College, are on that capital list, so I'm sure they will be very disappointed today. Could you ask that you could write out to both schools and update them of exactly the process as to the prioritisation of the 7 and, like others have mentioned, the next steps for both those schools?
Minister.
Speaker, and again thank the member for her remarks. Obviously the 7 that were announced today in terms of the pause being lifted are there on the basis of the identified need and the prioritisation that exists within the department. But I made the point earlier, 102 schools announced from 2012, only 35 completed. So there are 70 schools in the same position as the 2 that the member has raised with me. And then there is the totality of the capital schemes that I have outlined in my statement that we need to be addressing. So finance is hugely challenging to deliver on what we want to deliver, but I'm happy to write to the member in respect of the specific schools that she has raised with me.
Philip Brett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure the Minister will agree with me, given the inclusion of Dromore High School on his list today, that all politics is local. So turning to North Belfast, both Seaview Primary School and Newtonabbey Community High School have both passed through the ICT process a number of years ago. The pupils, staff and parents deserve to have fit-for-purpose facilities. Would the Minister ensure that his new approach can enable those schemes to be delivered?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, thank the member for his comments. And he highlights 2 schools in his constituency that are at a much more advanced state of readiness. And in the event of capital being made available, obviously then further progress can be made to take forward these schemes. And he is right. And I know, Mr. Speaker, it's a school that you campaigned for a long, long time in terms of Dromore High School. Very much needed in terms of the new build. The announcement today allows that ICT team to be put in place and just to continue the progress of planning towards it. And I've outlined the capital pressures that exist, and therefore we need to bear that in mind in terms of expectation. But I've outlined the context in which those decisions have been taken and the needs that exist in terms of our capital needs.
Nicola Brogan.
And Corla, and may I add my congratulations to the Minister in his new role and wish him all the best in the time ahead. I also welcome the Minister's commitment to the Struil Shared Education Campus in Noma and his intention to bring forward investment proposals. Can the Minister offer some kind of timeline on when he plans to bring forward these proposals, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the member for her remarks and her question. I've outlined in terms of the statement my view around Struil and the opportunity that exists in respect of Struil. Monies that were ring-fenced in terms of the Fresh Start, that 150 million towards shared education and integrated education, that was ring-fenced. That is no longer ring-fenced. The £3.3 billion that the UK government announced rolled into that monies that was part of the Fresh Start. So that is no longer ring-fenced, and I need to make the case, and I will be urgently to the Executive, that funding needs to be approved to allow then that full business case that will provide us with the costs, the benefits associated with it, that process to be carried out, to allow then a decision to be taken to go into contractual arrangements, of which we do have a contractor in place. And I will be making the case to the Executive that what was previously ring-fenced for shared education and integrated education needs to be reinstated as a matter of urgency for my department, because this impacts not just on Struil but other shared and integrated education programmes that had been part of the original £500 million which had been announced by the NIO.
Mr. Tom Buchanan.
Mr. Speaker, Minister, can I welcome your statement today and wish you well in your new post. In your statement you do reference the Struil Education Campus, and over the past number of years this project has been fraught with numerous difficulties, not least those of a financial nature due to the uncertainty of the funding. Therefore, in light of this and in light of the business case being finalised going forward, can you give any guidance to the House that this project is good value for money?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again I thank the member for that question. In respect of the value for money point, obviously the full business case is being prepared, and that will evaluate all of the benefits and costs of the programme in full. But if I can say, Mr. Speaker, this project has been in planning for over 15 years. These schools have been waiting for new accommodation throughout the duration of that time. The 5 schools in Omagh, they all have serious and significant accommodation deficiencies, and the need for investment in new facilities has been clearly established by my department's professional advisors and across 2 outlined business cases. Condition surveys of all 5 schools undertaken in June 2023 indicate that the value of backlog maintenance alone in the schools is now around £12 million. So if Strual does not proceed and funding is not ring-fenced for this important programme, it will be many years before any of the schools will receive capital investment. They would be back to the beginning in respect of planning of any new accommodation. And as an executive, we will wish to honour previous commitments to these schools and to the wider Omagh community.
David Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to the Minister for his statement. The Minister will be aware, as I know my constituency colleague Gavin Robinson MP has been engaging with him already, on two SEND schools in my constituency, Mitchell House and Greenwood House Assessment Centre. Would the Minister agree to join us in visiting those schools to see the critical need for the upgrades that they are currently awaiting, and why the investment that he rightly is calling for is so desperately needed for some of our most vulnerable pupils?
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the member for that question? And yes, more than happy to engage with himself and the Member of Parliament for East Belfast around the need for this additional funding, because it is, in this wider context, both special educational needs, that is a priority for capital spend. But significant investment is required immediately, and that needs to be sustained into the future. And that's not only for planned maintenance, it's digital infrastructure, it's specialist curriculum facilities, it's pitches, it's outdoor play spaces, and it's everyday equipment for teaching and learning, and to provide those SEND placements.
Colin McGrath.
And I congratulate the Minister on his appointment and wish him well as the Minister for Education and Youth Services. And I'd like to ask the question. I visited a school in my constituency on Friday, Knockhaven Special School. It has to operate across 3 separate sites because the accommodation, they have outgrown it. Would the Minister agree that sites like that should be prioritised, given that they're operating across multi-sites, and given that the Down High School site is about to become available, would he agree that that might be a good location for a new school?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank the member for his comments. He highlights the issue which I've been engaging with already, that in delivering the curriculum, you have some pupils where, for example, if they don't have a sports hall for PE, they're then having to be bused to somewhere that can provide and meet the needs in respect to that curriculum. That eats up valuable time during out the education day. It also requires transport to be provided, and none of that is conducive to delivering the kind of curriculum that they need. So, where schools have multi-sites, that is a challenge, and that is why I'm making the bid in terms of the capital needs for our department, so that we can try and drive forward a curriculum-led development scheme.
Jim Allister.
The Minister addressed the penny-wise, pound-foolish approach of providing a new school and then refusing over successive decades to attend to basic maintenance. I reference school I know best, Muirfields Primary School, new school 15 years ago, fantastic, but all basic maintenance since denied, till we reach the point where eventually it's going to cost far more to put in place the repairs than if they'd been dealt with as they arose.
Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely with the member for North Antrim and the point that he's making. It is indicative of the dire state that we have got ourselves into, that we are unable to do these kind of planned maintenances because we literally are trying to keep schools open, and emergency repairs is what has now been necessary, and also providing the placements for special educational need. So the school that the member highlights, and his point is valid, but in contrast to Glenwood on the Shankill Road, is night and day in terms of the fabric of the building and the environment that we are trying to teach children in. So I wanted to be able to address a planned maintenance scheme, a school enhancement programme, a curriculum-led capital development, as well as major capital projects, ICT upgrades, all of the issues that I have mentioned. I want to be able to take forward. That will require, and this is the challenge, Mr. Speaker, to everybody in this House and to my executive colleagues, is to provide the resources that are necessary to meet the needs of our children and young people.
Minister, Gael School in Lunine, an excellent Gael school in my constituency, but is in a building totally not fit for purpose, a high proportion of SEN pupils as well. College to first is oversubscribed by several hundred pupils. What assurances can the Minister give all Gael School that he and his department will treat them fairly when it comes to getting access to funding, both capital and resource required? Because Gael School have been left out of the last 3 capital bill announcements by previous ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I made reference to this point earlier in respect of the member for Foyle. Every school will be treated fairly and equitably for the time in which I am Minister for Education. That is the approach that I will take. It will be based upon need in terms of the provision that is required, and the member can be assured in terms of the approach that I'll be taking around this issue.
Just note that all members who were here for the statement were called. 2 members who were here late were called late. Mightn't receive that latitude in future, but given that we're just starting again, you've got a little latitude. I have now received notice from the Minister for Infrastructure that he wishes to make a statement. Before I call the Minister, I again remind members that they need to be in the chamber to hear the whole of the Minister's statement